Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Mukam karoti vachalam Pangam langayate girim Yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurun dinatara Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha Patitanam bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahabhadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namani Gaura Tishe namaha. Nityanandam namastubhyam Premananda pradayane Kalo kalmashanashaya Janava pataye namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Bai Priyai Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Pujapad, Bhaktivedanta Tridandi, Goswami Maharaj ki Tadiya Tirobhav Mahamahotsav Shila Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. First of all, I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad, Ashvatara Sata Sri Srila, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Siksha Gurudevs. Nitya Lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa, Ashvatara Sata Sri Srila, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashvatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my Dandavat Pranams at the lotus feet of all of my Shri Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga, and I offer my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas, all the Vaishnavis, headed by the Tridandi Sannyasi Gandhi. And especially on this day, I offer my Dandavat Pranams at the lotus feet of my most worshipful, dear godbrother and friend, Srila Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj. So, this impromptu gathering is expected, that on such occasions we certainly must gather together and honor such a Vaishnava. And I'm sure a lot of you, I have been looking on Facebook, many different posts by numerous devotees. I even saw this morning in your class, Madhukar's class, they had some devotees online also. And it will go on for a few days, he said. So, first of all, who is Tridandi Maharaj? Who is he? There's a lot of glorification of him by the devotees. I noticed, especially amongst the junior devotees, they felt a very deep connection with him as a guide, as a teacher, as a friend, as someone who cared about them, someone who was forcing them to study the Shastras and to hear all these incredible topics from our Guru Varga. And that's basically what he did all the time. He was always immersed in trying to go deeper into the Shastras, what Gurudev has given to us. I was telling the devotees that the first time that I met him was in 1994. And it was the first time that I had come also to Brajmandala Prikrama that year to be with our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I hadn't been with him on Parikrama, but I had already met him some years before that even. And that particular year, Srila Gurudev was also coming with us. But then as the years went by, then his health declined. He was not able to come. But on that year, Parikrama, and also Gurudev's temple in Govardhan was not built yet. So we went from ashram to ashram to ashram. Probably we moved could be at least 6, maybe even 8 times during that whole Kartik month. But anyway, on the first day that I was seated on a bus, who was sitting next to me? Tridandi Maharaj, who at that time, I don't know if he was initiated quite yet at that year, I'm not exactly sure. But his name prior was Narada Muni when he was in ISKCON, and then he became Nandakishore, or Nandakishore. We have 2 Nandakishores. And so we started talking to one another, and we introduced ourselves to each other. And as I recall that while we were discussing things on the bus, then he told me, he said, you see all the people paying dandavats, doing the parikrama around Govardhan? Dandavat parikrama. You know what dandavat parikrama is? Yeah? What is dandavat parikrama?
You lie on the ground and get up, and again you done, and then again you get up and you count with stones.
Yeah, you don't have to count. You just have to keep on doing dandavats. Well, some people do 108. They have 108 Shalagram Shilas or Govardhan Shilas or whatever. But Dandavat Parikrama just basically means that you will go the entire circle, length of the Parikrama Marg of Govardhan by doing Dandavats. You will not walk one single step, only Dandavats. So he told me, he said, I did this Dandavat Parikrama. I said, what? Yes, I did this Dandavat Parikrama. I says, wow, how did you do it? He says, well, I just came with my gamcha every day to the spot where I left off the previous day, you understand? Then I began. And he said, I did a few hours every single day. So I don't really recall how long it took. It was more than 1 month. But it could have been around a month and a half. But he completed the entire Govardhan Parikrama. And he said about himself, I'm a pretty feisty guy, And he was. So anyway, that was the first time that I met him. And our Gurudev, he hadn't yet gone to the West. He didn't leave India till 96. So that was 2 years before Gurudev went to the West. But Tridandi Maharaj had been living already in Vrindavan in the early 90s, and along with his wife Ajantimala and his son Govardhan, and just renting there in Vrindavan. But he met Gurudev around that time. Prior to that, he came into the Hare Krishna movement. He joined the temple in Australia in 1978, after our Srila Prabhupada left the planet, so he never got to meet Prabhupada personally. And then he was there in Australia, and he also was engaged in some management positions in the ISKCON temple and so forth. And but he never got to meet Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, who was also on the planet at that time. But then he hit the jackpot in the early 90s, and he met the Mahabhagavad Rasik, pure devotee. And from that point on, he was completely dedicated to the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev. So, Tridandi Maharaj, he was a very determined person, determination. And one thing that stands out above all else, he was determined every day to chant 1 lakh of Harinam. It's quite an achievement. And he was deeply absorbed in that. Always he carried that out for at least those years, the remainder of his life. And, like I said already, he was always very attached to the literatures, the transcendental literatures. He also even produced a couple of little literatures, like a guidebook for Navadvip Parikrama. He shortened it. He was always doing little, he even published something for Surabhi Kunj, like that. I remember also that one time, the Gurudev's Bhagavad Gita. I'm not remembering if it was already printed in the thick, full version that we had in the very beginning. I don't remember what year it was printed also. But at any rate, Tridandi Maharaj was in Malaysia for a while. He got acquainted with different devotees, and there was one man who was somewhat wealthy, and he convinced him to pay for the printing of Bhagavad Gita. But that particular version, that printed version, we had a nickname for it. The brick. Remember? It was really thick. And the type of paper that was used and everything. And that was never reprinted again in that form.
It was supposed to be Bible paper, and then, but then they were out of Bible paper, and they just wanted to print it anyways.
Yes.
So that,
And that was supposed to be pocket-sized, right?
yeah.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was supposed to be pocket-sized.
He told me it was going to be pocket-sized.
The Gita or the
Gita.
Jaiva Dharma?
The Gita.
The Gita. Oh, okay.
Big pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, Tridandi Maharaj, then Gurudev started touring in 96, and Tridandi Maharaj, at that time, he hadn't taken sannyasa, of course. He was still in the household life. And the years went by in the 90s, then the 2000s came, and Gurudev started giving sannyas to a number of his disciples and seniors. And then I think he took sannyas in 2005. That's what I remember from this little biographical sketch I read this morning. And I remember it was around. You remember that? Was it 2005?
I forget.
Okay. Who took in 3 or 4? And who took in 4? Nemi Maharaj and a few others. Yeah. Anyway, from the time that he took sannyas, around that time, then he also liked to live in Braj. He always liked to be in the holy land. This is one thing about him. So, even, and a lot of us were starting to travel and preach everywhere. Gurudev was sending us here and there. And although it was not so much his nature to do much traveling and preaching, like we were doing, constantly moving, but what he invented was what he called a japa retreat. You ever heard of that one? He started to do these japa retreat programs because he liked to chant japa, and he liked to get everybody chanting japa. So he did a japa retreat program which would last at least 1 week, if not like 10 days. And he was having, everyone had to chant 1 lakh every day on that japa retreat, or as much as they possibly could. And then in the evenings they would come and they would share their experiences. And I remember hearing and also meeting devotees who attended, and even very senior devotees who had very deep experiences. Because they weren't really disciplining themselves to do that much japa and absorption, you see. So, Tridandi Maharaj, you know, especially when online stuff really started to develop a lot more, then Tridandi Maharaj was doing a lot of coaching for devotees online. I don't even know to what extent, but I know that he had a number of different classes that he would give to different groups of devotees. And one of those groups was, you know, they were doing Srimad Bhagavatam study. And he was like their disciplinarian teacher. That they had to read such and such chapter, and they had to take notes. And then when he would go online with them, then they had to tell what the chapter was about. Like this, like a teacher, you know, forcing it to go deeper. I think it was around 2017 when Tridandi Maharaj decided that he was going to live in Navadvip Dham. 2017, or around that time. So he wanted to find a place in Navadvip. Because he really had a Bhajananandi side of his nature. Although he wasn't a recluse, but he had that Bhajananandi side, and he wanted to do bhajan. Didn't want to travel here and there to preach and all that. So he just started preaching, doing all of his preaching online. At that point, he was already doing it, you know. And then one day, when the Parikrama, the Navadvip Parikrama came to Godramdvip, then he was very determined that he wanted to locate a place right near to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajan Kutir, Swananda Sukhada Kunj. And he went knocking on doors. And the first door that he knocked on, which was literally right next to the Samadhi of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then that person was, yes, he was willing to rent. So he lived there on the ground floor, which had, I think, one bedroom, and then he built another little room onto there, and what's the other son? Who lived with him there? Huh?
Tapasvi.
Yeah, Tapasvi Maharaj. He also stayed there with him. But he lived there for 5 years. 5 years. So now the time ticked by, and of course that included the 2 years of lockdown, right? From 2020 to 2022. And then around 2023, then he moved, he relocated, because one of Gurudev's followers, Avadut Maharaj, who took sannyas from Gurudev, wasn't initiated by him, but he took sannyas from him. And then he developed and began to build a temple at Surabhi Kunj, which is where Bhaktivinoda Thakur lived when he was in household life. But the other place, just short 10-minute walk from there, that was later. And also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to stay there. And that's where you can go upstairs, and the desk, the bed, the bookshelves of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur utilized right there. And in the room next to that, Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So he began to live at Surabhi Kunj. And he lived there for about 2 years, I believe it was. Yeah. Then some reason he moved back over to the Mayapur side here. I think he stayed at Rasamrita Kunj for some short period. Huh?
Like a month.
Yeah, a month, not very long. And then from there, that's when he went down to South India. He stayed down in South India, I think that was like coming into the winter period. He went down to South India, not Udupi. Huh? He was near Bangalore, one householder, and he was doing some kind of treatment. He was like Ayurvedic, natural. And then after that, I suddenly heard that he's in Radha Kund. Because I know, Tridandi Maharaj told me way early on, he says, I want to live in Navadvip Dham for 10 years. in my final 10 years, I want to live in Jagannath Puri. That's what he told me. So, he didn't quite make 10 years in Navadvip, more like 7 or so. But he was inspired to go to Radhakund. And I think he probably was there for at least the last, 6 months or longer, something like that. He stayed there. But Tridandi Maharaj also, it was around 2015, I believe, around 2015, when he began to get heart problems. And that was, because it was quite heavy, his heart problems, and that's when he started to get the stents. You know, a stent? It's like a little pipe that they put inside to open up the chambers, you know, of your arteries. So as the years went by, you know, from that time, no, maybe it was more like 2015, like 2015, for about 10 years. So that problem was going on. But in the meantime, he never slackened in his preaching, in his sadhana and all. And he continued doing all of his online classes and everything. But one stent after another came during those years. And then in recently I heard that he also went to a doctor because he was continuing to have some heart problems. And the doctor recommended to him that he should get open heart surgery, you know, bypass surgery. But he declined. No, I'm not going to do it. So then he got some Ayurvedic person was helping, and he was also taking, Maharaj told me, some kind of pill to open up the lung.
Nitroglycerin for heart pain.
Oh, for heart pain, yes, yeah. You know, so then he was giving his classes every single night. Every night. I think 30 days a month he was giving his classes. I don't recall that some nights he wasn't giving. Okay. Was he giving classes every single night? Or was it,
6 days a week.
6 days, okay.
But then he had other classes as well.
Yeah, I know. During the day, different groups of devotees like that. But that was wonderful. I used to tune into that, especially when he started reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. He made his way all the way up to the 8th chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is the pinnacle of the discussions in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya Lila chapter 8. And he was, yeah, and he was, you know, he was moving along. And the class, I think I tuned into his class the day before. Not the final one, but the other one, the day before that. I was like, oh, okay, now he's starting Ramananda Samvad. And also he was going to do 2 other books along with that. Prabhupada's shortened version of the entire, which Prabhupada wrote even before he came to the West. He titled it, In Search of the Ultimate Goal of Life. It's been published by, I don't know if it's a BBT publication or other, but he was using that also. And he was using Srila Gurudev's Rai Ramananda Samvad book, like that. And that was his intention, was that he was going to go through the entire 8th chapter studying these books. So that would have certainly taken a couple of months at least, minimum. You know. And that was like just his first, practically his first class on chapter 8 that he was giving on that day. And then the next morning, when I had, you know, completed all my morning things, and then I opened up my phone, and the first message I saw was from Shashikala Devi. Our dear Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj has departed, has left his body. Wow. How auspicious. It wasn't a surprise to me at all, because we all knew that he's at any moment, you know. And in fact, he got a medical visa extension so that he didn't have to leave India, because he kind of just like said goodbye to his visas. But then suddenly it was discovered, and then he was going to have to fly back to Canada and this and that. And then they were discussing amongst the FRO people and all that, and he had a lawyer, and the lawyer told him, well, okay, I mean, if you're going to send him back, but you have to be responsible, because he's probably going to leave his body on the airplane. He cannot tolerate that. He said, okay. And they gave him like a visa for the rest of his life, which was a very short remainder. But anyway, I'm just telling that we were all a little bit shocked, because when a person's so near and dear friends that you've known for years and years and years, when they leave this world, it's not an easy thing, especially such a Vaishnava as him. So it will go on, it will continue, and we'll hear more of the devotees' memories today, and I'm just paying my obeisances at his divine lotus feet, and I am sure that he's in a very exalted place right now. We don't know, but he is probably continuing in his sadhu sangha to attain the stage of bhav in that body, the next body. So, Tridandi Maharaj ki jai, Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj ki jai, Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Anchato Churvashchakra Sindhi, Patitanam Bhavati.
Gurudev Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tat Bhaktaya Namo Namah Jnanatamrinasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurudeva Namah Varagi Bhakta Sampradnaya Paimamam Avnipshamam Dam Kripamulir Parukaluki Sanatatam Prabhum Ashayamam Vedantitas Tattvam Jaiskanamadvayam Prameti
Meti Paramatmeti Bhagavan
Vanchakapatubhyas Chakrita Sindhiveva Chapatitanam Parnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Pate Gopeshi Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mostate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhana Sutya Devi Pranamami Amigre Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Then my unlimited Sastandara Pranam my Guru Maharaj Vitalila Gurushamah Sutara Shishmai Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada and equal number of Sastandara Pranam to my Lord Srila my Shiksha Gurudev Vitalila Gurushamah Sutara Shishmai Shri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj and Vitalila Gurushamah Sutara Shishmai Shri Bhaktivedanta Ram Goswami Maharaj all the Acharya, Ruparoga Acharyas, line of Shri Chaitanya Prabhu, all the Summa Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Tridandi Gan, my Guru Bhai, assembled today, glorification of Pujyapada Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Goswami Maharaj ki jai. In a conversation between Ramananda Roy and Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy, Vaishnavas are so exalted. Do Vaishnavas have pain? Do they experience pain? Ramananda Roy replied, besides the separation of Vaishnavas have none. So, simultaneously, with Tirobhav, we're feeling separation for our dear most Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Goswami Maharaj. Our personal loss at his missing his association. But for his, what a glorious departure he had, as Maharaj explained. So much time in the holy dhams he spent. In 2017, I was with Maharaj And we were both saying, "Oh, Godrumdweep would be a nice place to set up a bhajan kutir, somewhere near Bhaktivinoda Thakur." So after we did the program there at Surabi Kunj, then Maharaj came to me. He said, "Look, I just had a Bengali write down on a piece of paper that I'm looking for a room with attached bathroom." And he said, "Now I'm going to go and try to find some place." And like Maharaj said, the first place, he must have picked his favorite place that maybe this would happen. And the first place, the man said, a very nice man from Kolkata who had a house there, he rarely visited, but he ended up giving Maharaj the whole downstairs, and he stayed upstairs. And so Maharaj stayed there. And I'm so glad you came today, because you were with Maharaj when he finally left Surabi. He stayed there near Swananda Sukha Kunj, just a stone throw from there, and then he went to Surabi Kunj. And I went over there to see him a few times, and he gave me prashadam, etc. And he said he had gotten like hundreds of the Gita Gans, the ISKCON prints, the Bhagavad Gitas in Bangla, and he was distributing them profusely to everyone he saw in Godrun. And he was making friends with so many people. He personally had so much push for himself in his personal sadhana and sadhachar, but he was very, very open-hearted and to so many persons he met. And of course, he told me one day, he said, "I can't stay in this place any longer." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, maybe I could stay here when you leave." And he goes, "I strongly recommend against it." He goes, "You can't believe, they blare their music so loud, and they have these festivals, it's just like intolerable, you know." I read this morning where, I forget, 74, 75, when ISKCON was first coming to and setting up the temple in Mayapur, Tridandi Mandir, and the Lotus building had been completed, and so, but the devotees who were staying there, they complained to the authorities and even to Srila Prabhupada. The locals are blasting their cinema music so loud. They have these big speakers. We know, just, you can't believe that they can tolerate such loud music. So somehow it was decided, okay, well, we'll give them back blaring music, but it'll be music, the Harinam and Kirtans. So they put huge 4 speakers on each corner of the Lotus building, and they blared music back, and it went back and forth for I don't know how long, this sound war, they called it. And then finally it dissipated, and so it stopped. So Tridandi Maharaj was getting really frustrated with how loud these things were going on. And he also complained, he said, on the way, because I noticed on the way to Godrumdweep, there would be piles and piles of logs where they cut down these trees. They were cutting down so many trees in Godrum. And he said, yes, he goes, I can't believe that they've thinned out so many of these trees that used to be around here. He said, I personally went to the owners and I said, I will pay you whatever they're paying you for these trees, not to cut them down. So it was so amazing. So then he moved to Surabi Kunj, and then after a while also that became, although he was going to go to Puri and Uruguay, I'm waiting to hear the details. I've only heard various second-hand information, but Tridandi Maharaj went and visited Radhakund, and then while he was there he said, oh, I can't leave this place, I have to stay. So you came back and you packed up a bunch of his stuff and sent it to me in Radhakund, and that's where, and then he was always pushing himself in so many different ways, and lovingly pushing others too. But others appreciated so much his harshness to push them in the direction that Gurudev wanted. I could really see that he was a right hand man of Gurudev's desires. He communicated with so many different persons. And the other day I was on Madhakar's program in the morning, and the devotees from Boston, who I knew very well, I visited there many times as well, but Tridandi Maharaj just completely captivated all their hearts, and he took it upon himself to weekly give classes to them, I think a couple of times a week. And he went through Jaiva Dharma and different literatures, and then, like Maharaj said, to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he personally instructed them in so many different ways to take it deeply, not just do an overview, superficial study, but to go deep. He would always, like the last class I saw him give, Madhulila 8, Ramananda Roy Sadi, he said, I really want to dissect this deeply so it enters into us very deeply. And he would go through it so nicely. And he spoke point by point. That was the second day he gave class on Madhya 8, Ramananda Roy Sambhad. And he just was so enlivened. And I was thinking, this was the last class he gave, just 12 hours before he left this world. I was looking for any symptoms that he had, but he was really fired up, And I had been in contact with him for years about some of his different difficulties that he had in his health and his heart, etc., etc. And he knew that any day, many different times he said, I thought I was going to leave my body today, but it didn't happen. And he would have this medicine that was very powerful to counteract pain in the heart, which is a lack of oxygen. And that's why you're getting pain. So he knew it was any time, and he refused the third bypass I think he would have had. He said, no, I'll just get another stent, which was like the 9th one. So it was just amazing to see how Gurudev, Nityananda Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna, they arranged his life, and his passing was so auspicious, in such an auspicious place, absorbed, and he gets up 1:30, 2 o'clock every morning and chants his 64 rounds, and then every day doing programs several times a week. And I personally saw so many devotees in Boston just very deeply affected by how he had personally treated them so kind, so lovingly, to encourage them to progress and to digest this powerful information. And also in New Zealand, he had many different devotees there, a group of devotees there, and maybe Australia, a group of devotees he would speak to a couple of times a week. Maybe he'll be interviewing them soon, but it was such amazing, and we're so fortunate to have this personality. We're lamenting for our separation, but we're so proud of Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj for diligently applying in his personal sadhachar this powerful bhakti in a special way that Gurudev was giving us, going to the essence. Sri Gurudev said the essence of Bhagavad Gita and the postgraduate study is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of Srimad Bhagavatam, is Chaitanya Charitamrita. The essence of Chaitanya Charitamrita is this Madhya 8 chapter where he speaks of Ramananda's Roy Sambhad. So that's what he was contemplating on for a few days, and in the most auspicious place, Radhakund. I have a bhajan kutir in Govindakund, and I would stop by and see him on my program. And every day he was doing a program of Radhakund because he didn't want to go on the full program because of his condition. And I was listening to devotees from Boston, and they were saying how just some months back they brought their young child who knew Tridandi Maharaj for very long. I mean, it was 4 years old when they first brought their child, and they all agreed, and Maharaj confirmed that Narayani was her name. So she was 4 years old, and Maharaj had just finished the Radhakund program. So they came, and they were very glad and happy to see each other, and then Maharaj was determined, and he took the baby girl, 4 years old, by the hand, and then he went on Radhakund again, the program of Radhakund again. So powerful, so powerful. What a loving personality. When we dive deep in bhakti and develop our love for the Supreme, by the mercy and the love of our Gurudev, then automatically that will be transferred to the hearts, and we saw that happen and this personality. So we're lamenting for our separation, but we're very, very happy and proud of our dear Sannyas Guru Bhai and Gurudev's beloved disciple, Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Gayatri Devi. Just over here.
The table.
The line over there.
Sorry. So much serious.
Very serious. It's very serious.
It's echo.
No, don't.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Love.
Really, I'm sorry for all these rules, all mantras, everything. I don't know. I have small brain. But when Gurudev left, it's not secret. Everywhere dark, and I'm living in Vrindavan, and I'm searching nice devotee to association, to touch, to listen. And of course, I interested to Bon Maharaj, little going like this, but not satisfied. Something I need more knowledge. And I listen. Maharaj from Radhakund shifted to Navadvip. I said, oh, I have to go there. Special start already bring down so much noisy and hard to stay. And it's good to opportunity to be with Vaishnava. And really Maharaj is one person, for this many times, for me special, like who comes here with microphone, stay on life. But that time special, Jiva did accident quickly and the wheelchair this all time. The Maharaj is one point for the keep going to Gurudev words. And such a beautiful and friendly and encouraging, and he's speaking like only intellectual, very high class, and I don't understand fully, but I see some power, and he very friendly, everything. I love to cook that time also. When I cooking, they say, Gayatri, stop there, come sit here and listen. Then some, also like it's not secret, I also feeling like here in Mayapur, not so much association. And same time the last year when I gone Govardhan Vraja, and then see Maharaj suddenly in Rathakund. He do parikrama and then oh Maharaj, you are here? Yeah, Gayatri, I'm here. I'm so happy. I say, yeah, it's hard to stay in Bengal for me. I say, Maharaj, it's nice. Now Brajavasis have good mood. They have like more intimate. He say, yeah, I'm not going. I'm here now. You see me? I will not move from here. Uruguay is shifting all luggage. I say, wow. And he said, yeah, all things will come now. But Maharaj have another things also, which one I learned from him so deeply. He's so attached to Mahamantra. Ever I see another our Sangha. He is just one focus to, from him I start first of all learning more deeply Gurudev, more our Guru Varga, glorify. He is so much intellectual way giving it. It's like I shy to speak this, everyone knows, but special, I'm saying my own things. When I came in India, I want to live in Vraj like this. I prefer to association Indian people, special for Japan. I don't like to be association with foreigners. Because what I have to learn, this is my conscience. Maybe I'm wrong, whatever, but that I am. And only Maharaj, something I'm like very small. Even when he's speaking English, I'm saying, oh my God, these English people. But he given me this power, and he really chanting Mahamantra. When I bring down and be doing parikrama and again meeting, he said, yeah, good, you chant at least 1 lakh. That is very important, Gandhi, nothing else having this world. And I see his whole life he's living just like this. He sleep like 7 o'clock in winter, like maximum summertime, 8:30, and he wake up 1 o'clock. And till Mangalarati, he do 1 lakh. And then anyway, last year when I go there, stay his ashram, which one he used to stay before also. He's so kind, but at the same time his health is like so upset, not hard, like constipation and loose motion, like undigested. Because I have to go Canada to make new visa. He's so upset, but he's trying to not show. I see how much he attached to Dham. It's really like, I can't say I'm small for I judge how much he's high, but he, with his life and his preaching, all these things he showed us how to do sadhana and proper way to worry about how I live the Dham. He's just shaking. Sometimes I see he's shaking. He don't know how to speak with us. He said, no, go. He upset. Like, no, I don't want you cook. No, you cook. And then, no, you not cook. You cook. And we are 3 of people like confused what we do. And he's so upset and like cutting our words. No one. But then Maharaj get it by medical visa or something like this advocate, and he get 10 years. He's so happy. And I see like this. He always like intention, and he came very skinny. That day he's like this. Gayatri done. I'm staying here forever. His 10-year visa, for him is forever. He just subtle and he want to be in Dham. And he every day, morning, 4 o'clock he go to parikrama till 5:30 he come back. And that is summer, like September is hot. And he loving that cows, which one Chaitanya Betak. Sometimes I go earlier and he come like near 4:35. I say, you're here? What you doing here? I say, okay, I'm trying something. He's trying to chastise, but that is another level of, and he shows me, I'm going to back to him, and he said, hey, why are you coming? I said, I'm not coming, you go, I'm not disturbing. But, and he's doing all parikrama, all these cows, Vrindavan, this corner, the big trees, Mahaprabhu's. Every day he sang and prayed to Radhakund, prayed to this all details, and then go Lalita, and then go these cows, and so soft and moody, very inside. He don't want to associate. But before, I see the people who they're living, they love him so much, they knows him, because he lives there long. So I don't know. It's looking dream, really like I'm feeling hallucination, some dream. I am the person who know Gurudev. I'm the person who know this type of Vaishnav, who show us how to be, say name Radha Krishna and Rupanuka Varga, and we can speak these type of things. Or it is true. When I see, maybe this is true. I'm not dreaming, I'm not sleeping. And really I see we are lucky. But this news, yes, I know Maharaj is happy. He ready to go. Sometimes he wants to be in Dham. Maybe he planning to stay a little more, giving his good classes. But then I go into some class. I want to give English class, and I see one ISKCON person, famous man. He's listening Maharaj voice. It's 10 o'clock. I have to be Bharati Maharaj place, meet Devamai. And I said, what? I'm going bicycle and this person moving. I stopped there and waiting for this cab. I said, who you listen? Because I know Maharaj. And he said, he's my guru, just passed away. Oh my God, I don't know. I didn't see any guru morning, like nothing, no. I said, how possible? It's Tridandi Maharaj. Are you sure? He said, yeah, he is my guru. Like this. Bhaktivedanta Srimad Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj ki jai. Thank you we are fortunate for we know this type of personality. And he's so friendly for everyone.
They can stand. Yeah, I'll get.
I offer my obeisances to my Shri Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, to Sanyai Sigan, and to all assembled devotees. I cannot imagine that today I will have an opportunity to say something, to speak for a couple of minutes.
совсем небольшое соприкосновение с этой личностью, то вы можете поделиться. И у них просто из сердца я подняла руку.
But when Srimad Sajjan Maharaj told us that maybe somebody had some experience of meeting with Srimad Tridandi Maharaj, then I just felt in my heart that yes, I have to share, and I raised my hand.
И вы знаете, это очень личная история. Я думаю, что, возможно, вы ее не стоит записывать, и можно просто потом выразить, но я поделюсь.
This is a very personal story that is maybe not even for recording, but anyway, I want to share this.
Да, это был такой момент в моей жизни, когда пришла новая душа, и мы были достаточно в зрелом возрасте, моему мужу 53 года, мне 40. И был критический момент в нашей жизни.
It was such a moment when my husband and I we were quite old. My husband was 53 years old and I was 40. And the new soul came to our family. I was pregnant with a baby, and it was quite a difficult moment for our family financially also, and with health.
И мое здоровье было таково, что мне положили в больницу и сказали не выходить.
My health condition was such that I was put in the hospital, and doctors said that I am not allowed to leave it. I'm staying there for a long time.
Но я услышала, что Шрила Гурудев послал в Россию, в Москву, совет
But I have heard that Srila Gurudev sent to Moscow his Vibhuti, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, to preach. And even though doctors were against it, I decided to go from my hometown to Moscow to see him. It took 37 hours on train. And doctors said to me that this is such a big risk. You may be just taken from the train to emergency room. But by the mercy of Srila Gurudeva, I came to Moscow and I had a personal darshan with Tridandi Maharaj.
И он настолько душевно и сердечно поделился своей историей, как он со своей женой давали рождение своему сыну, какие баджаны супруга его пела перед тем, как принять просад, какие священные писания читали.
And when, with tears in my eyes, I shared with him my story, my situation. So kindly, with such love and affection, he started to tell me his story, how he and his wife were having a baby, how when she was pregnant with their baby, she would sing bhajans before taking prashadam, what were they doing, how they were preparing.
Чтобы за всю преданность я прочитала без комментариев, то есть санскрит и перевод, без Шримад Бхагавата.
And he gave me an instruction which bhajans to sing before I take prashadam. He gave me also an instruction to read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam without the purport, just Sanskrit and translation during these 9 months. And he also gave his blessing that that I would give birth at home with the Mahamantra of Srila Gurudeva playing.
У меня всего 3 родителей, но Дамадари очень легко читала уже с 3 лет. И мы с ней действительно прочитали, мы начинали день с главы утром и глава вечером. Мы прочли вещи над Бхагаватам.
And I have three kids, but Damodari, that's me, was 4 years old at the time, like 3, 4. So we would read every day, one chapter in the morning, one chapter in the evening. And she would read because she used to read at that age already very quickly.
Самое прекрасное рождение дома под звуки Бхагавана Прабхупады. И акушерка сказала, что ему в своей жизни она не видела, несмотря на возраст, такой классической, просто прекрасной легкой.
And it was a very wonderful experience to give birth at home with Srila Gurudeva's Mahamantra chanting. And the doctor who was there with me told that never ever in her life she saw such a nice process as it should go smooth without any problems.
И в одном из баджанов Шрила Бхактивинода Тхакур говорит: давайте забудем обо всем и будем воспевать славу Шрадхи Деви.
In one of his bhajans, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, let's forget about everything and chant the glories of Shraddha Devi.
Я не знаю, возможно, это по милости Гурудева была такая вера в наставление и благословение Триданди Махараджа, но на самом деле мы знаем, что могущество и благословение преданных, оно настолько велико все шатся, в нем.
And I don't know, maybe it was this strength, power of faith into instruction of Vaishnavas, into their words. But we know that this is true, that instructions of Vaishnavas have such potency that Hladini Shakti is present there, and that also all Shakti of Nityananda Prabhu is present there.
Да, и я сама через несколько часов отрезала с этим желанием Кришна Бхакти детское место. Ну, расскажи о том.
And just in a few hours after giving birth myself, I cut this this thread that connects mother and child with all the prayers for Krishna Bhakti to my child, and as I was instructed.
Поэтому, безусловно, что я прошу прощения за всего лишь личную историю. И, конечно же, я благодарю Шрила Гурудева за такую благую удачу находиться здесь и слушать Вайшнава Чариту и Вайшнава Гунагана, то есть представление о качестве.
I'm sorry for just telling my small personal story, but I'm so grateful to be here and to have an opportunity to listen to real Vaishnava Charita and Vaishnava Gunagana, the glories of Vaishnava's qualities and of their life.
Ну и только лишь одно добавлю, что через полгода после рождения, опять же по милости и благословения Вайшнавов, мы прошли с ней все и все, парикрам, все 3 дханы за месяц.
And also just the final part of this story is that actually just in half a year after she was born, together with her, I went through Navdipa Parikrama, all Parikrama, walking and carrying her. Just in half a year. And then so at first Navadipa Dhamma Parikrama, then Jagannatha Puri Dhamma Parikrama, and then we came to Vrindavan there also.
И последнее, что мне хотела бы сказать о классе, когда приехала в Москву и Триданди Махарадж давал классы, он учил нас слушать. Потому что действительно он давал такую глубокую сикханту, и он спрашивал нас на каждом классе. Мы готовились, мы пытались это провести через сердце.
And what I remember mostly from the classes of Tridandi Maharaj in Moscow is that he used to teach us to listen. He used to teach us how we should listen and take it deep to our heart.
Последнее, Вайшнавы учат нас, чтобы мы были благодарны каждому за самое, пусть даже незначительное, это содеянное в нашу сторону. Поэтому я храню в своем сердце. Это была единственная встреча в моей жизни. Но я храню ее глубоко в сердце с признательности, благодарности.
And Vaishnavas teach us to be very grateful for every little thing that anyone does for us. And this was my only meeting with Tridandi Maharaj, but I keep it in my heart with such a big gratitude and appreciation forever.
Guruvara. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tridandi Krishna Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. I'll do my best to speak whatever comes, and please don't mind, some of you may know me or not know me and somehow I'm speaking. Please don't mind. I only know Maharaj like far less than most of you, I think. When I first came into Maharaj Association, most of the faces that I see here are already a part of this for many, many years. So in one sense I feel like a little bit of an outsider, although none of you make me feel like that, quite the opposite. And I'm very grateful to be able to come into this association. Maharaj was definitely one of the most serious Vaishnavas that I ever had the fortune to meet. Although he was a serious preacher and he had a preaching spirit, and even the last thing that he instructed me, literally 1 week or just before he left, was to preach actually, because I told him, Maharaj, I kind of lost faith in this preaching, I just want to preach it myself. And he was like, no, like, before, like, no, you have to, you must, like, you have to do it, you should. Like, he had this really strong conviction, because that was his mood. But although that was his mood, more than that was his personal budget, actually. He was very serious. I mean, I joined in ISKCON, I'm initiated in ISKCON, my association, my saver is all connected within ISKCON, just for you to understand my background. But the first time I met Maharaj, I just kind of broken free from the kind of top-heavy institutional situation that I was in, and I was kind of free spirit with the blessings of my spiritual master. I'd come to Mayapur, it was a Purushottam Mass, maybe 2 before, so it would have been like, I don't know, 2018 or something like this. First I'm from Australia, I've been traveling and doing this Harinam and things, and then I'd gone to New York where I discovered the books of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj, which just completely expanded my perception of Krishna consciousness and the possibilities within the ocean of service. And then I'd come to first to Braj and then to Mayapur. In the house that I was staying in Mayapur, there was a book, my Srila Narayan Maharaj book. I believe it was The Hidden Path of Devotion. And anyway, I picked up this book and there were all these concepts which I hadn't really learned. And there was this, Sambhog, Ichmai, and Tata Bhavachmai concepts were there in this book, which I read, and then within a few days somehow it was like, must have been the disappearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the appearance of Gadadhar Pandit. I think, maybe I'm mixing it up. But we'd gone to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house, and one of my friends, like a close friend, he was like, hey, there's one Maharaj who lives here and he's very serious, like, hey, powerhouse, we should go for him. Because we were with like a small group of devotees that maybe wouldn't have been so open, we kind of just snuck off and went to Maharaj's house. It was knocked on the door. And, I don't know, it's just Maharaj, his mood was, he was so happy to meet like ISKCON devotees that were open to hearing the teaching of Srila Gurudev. And he was so eager to give, and the meeting, I mean, forgive me, my memories, I don't know, things were all mixed up, but the meeting was so sweet and inspiring, and he was pushing so much that from this meeting, I walked out of there and just my spiritual life for the next 4 or 5 years went rocket boosters. He really encouraged me and held my hand and pushed me and was always there. And then, I started traveling, and I met up with my Gurudev in South Africa, and I told him, Maharaj, I met one Maharaj, and he's from Gaudiya, he's Srila Maharaj's disciple, and I'm hearing him all the time, I'm speaking to him all the time, and he was like, okay, what's his name? I was like, Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj. And he goes, oh, Tridandi Maharaj, great Vaishnava, wonderful Vaishnava. Okay, so, and then 1 year passed, and again I was actually traveling with a group of devotees who I still travel with sometimes, and our spiritual master was from time to time there, and again after 1 year, Maharaj, I'm really hearing a lot, and he was always my spiritual master was very supportive of the relationship. He was, didn't want me to disturb the minds of the more conservative devotees in our community, but he was always yes, Maharaj, great Vaishnava, very serious Vaishnava, doing bhajan, doing serious bhajan, chanting a lot. So in that sense, I was really guided and encouraged from all sides. And yeah, with Maharaj, I pretty much studied under him from 2018 to maybe 2023 or something. We were very close. During COVID, we were here, we were locked down, we were pretty much every day, or at least 3-4 days a week, going and taking association from Maharaj. And we studied many granthas together, and even Roy Ramananda Samvad.
Didn't you also live with Maharaj?
I did live with Maharaj. Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping around a lot, I guess. I lived with Maharaj. So I was a brahmachari, I was in Saffron at the time, and I stayed with Maharaj because I kind of lost faith in the ashram, and in ISKCON, you don't really need to be orange the whole time, you can switch. So I started living with Maharaj as the kind of last attempt to hold on to my Saffron, and he was really encouraging me, but I was obviously determined not to do it, and I literally put on the white in his house, living with him. He was the first one to see. But then he also once he understood my mind was already made up, he stopped, and he would just encourage me, he just supported me, and he was also very much involved in the life of me and my wife. He's really a family member for us. And even though he was guru for me, he is guru for me. With my spiritual master, I always had a lot of Aishwarya, and I felt he always wanted me to be more friendly. And I didn't make this mistake with Tridandi Maharaj. I was really sometimes Maharaj would also hey, I didn't mind to take seva from Maharaj in that sense, in a friendly way. And I think he really appreciated it. I mean, I was always Das, and he was senior Vaishnava. It's easy to be Das. Yeah, and I lived with Maharaj pretty much for 3 months until my wife came to Mayapur, and then we just moved together. But the whole time he was always just preaching to me and making sure I do bhajan, and really pushing me, and even how many rounds, really push me. But that momentum carried on for a really long time. And I'm really grateful for that. I mean, he was always giving this mood, just encouraging me to go deeper, not just to be externally doing devotional service. He was always pushing me to do more, and he really held my hand through Jaiva Dharma. We must have read it together 3 times, and Roy Ramananda Samvad, at least 2 times we went through it together. We went to Puri together and did a whole seminar on it. And then Srila Gurudev's books, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, analyzing Bhakti and Yabilashita Shanyam, and what to speak of that, Anarpitam, Chirin Chirat, Kurinavartanakula, all these verses, Sisi, all the key things that Srila Maharaj was pushing, Maharaj, make sure that I knew everything. And it was kind of part of his strategy, because really, like, when I went on our tours, and we still go and, you know, we stay in ISKCON temples, and he was always like, you know, I speak on these things. Like, the last few years, my life is different. It's more external again, grihastha life. Like, again, my bhajan is not strong, my studies are not strong, but everything that he taught me, it carried on. Like, everything, whenever I have to give class, I'm just remembering like 5 years ago with Tridandi, you know what I mean? And yeah, he really gave me like such a foundation, and plugged me into a much bigger world, or like more like focused, specific world, even like a smaller world, like Krishna's world, more intimate, which was very inspiring. And then yeah, like during COVID, we were always just with him all the time. And I remember like his birthday, we'd always surprise him, and there would just be like a couple of devotees, maybe me and one or two others. And we'd like make kirtan together, and he was like so chill and so like, you know, it was really sweet and intimate with Maharaj. He so grateful to him, and to be able to have that like free mood was really nice. I remember one time it was his birthday, and he had like a huge jackfruit, and like really ripe, like really ripe, and he didn't want to waste it. And it was like me and one of our really good friends who also like study under Maharaj, Nityananda, also my godbrother and one of my good friends. And Maharaj made us sit and eat this whole jackfruit. And we were like almost vomiting, and like, you know, it's like, and Maharaj, and like, you know, we all sat and we had to finish the whole thing. And Nityananda, he was like finished, you know, he's like, I'm gonna vomit. And then I was like forcing myself, like, oh. You know, he like didn't want to waste the prasadam, right? He like wanted to honor this prasadam, and it was this was his idea of like happy birthday, you know? Like, like, Maharaj, come on, we got cake after this, like. And that's why, you know, Maharaj, he did have this like strong mood, like sometimes a bit like, whoa, okay, we're gonna eat the whole jackfruit and there's not another option, like, okay, like, you know, he had this like. But that wasn't, this was like a very like external, it was a part of his personality, but it wasn't like him, like inside he was very soft and intuitive, like he was really like connected or always seeking after this higher inspiration. And that's how it, like he went from his place behind Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house and he moved into Surabhi Kunj, because he was like, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is inspiring me, like I'm a sannyasi, I'm living like, look how I live, I have like so opulent life, like I need to do more austerity. Mine was already austere, like, you know, even when I was married, I was still going and staying with Maharaj like one or two nights a week, you know, just to be there and be absorbed. And the whole time I knew him, literally like 12 or 12:30, he was up in the nighttime, you know. If not that, then like maybe 1 or 1:30, or if he's sick or something. But he was always, as long as I knew him, and even now when he was in Radhakund, like he would sleep really early, like 6 or 7, and he was always up. And sometimes like by chance I would be up in the nighttime and we would speak to each other. He's like, even I want to sleep, I can't, and he would chant, he would do his chant from like early hours. And Maharaj was always like sharing things with me, his inspirations, like things that he discovered, like not super intimate and not very personal, like he's personal, but just like, hey, I tried this, I chanted like this, you should do like this also, you know. We had this kind of relationship where he would share with me, he would inspire me, and so anyway, he shifted to Surabhi Kunj to be more austere, and like, you know, he was always strict, chaturmas and all these things. He was always like very strict and always pushing me to be strict, and especially with like tomatoes. I was like, Maharaj, I can do chaturmas, but like 4 months no tomatoes, and my wife can like not agree to this, you know. And he was always like, no, like chaturmas, you should do it. And like he'd come over and like he would get like upset. What? No, like no, Maharaj, like this is for the other devotees, like this is for the chaturmas. No, like, yeah, he was always pushing us to be better and be really strong about it. But then, you know, it's like this is our situation, Maharaj, don't mind. And then again, he's like soft. So he moved to Surabhi Kunj to be more austere, and you know, he was definitely inspired there in a holy place, connecting to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, like really, you know, speaking on Jaiva Dharma and every day giving class, like 6 days a week and just all the time. And I would go as much as I could to see him, just to, you know, every time we go, it's like going to the holy place, you know, you just get recharged, inspired. or I remember somehow it came in my head to jump up. Oh no, this is, this is before Maharaj went to Surikunj, but one time during COVID, he thought he was having a heart attack. And, because his heart's been bad forever since I know him. Since the first time I met him, he told me, I died, I was dead for 5 minutes, I had a heart attack. And when I went unconscious, all I could hear was like Beatles songs, like songs of the Beatles. Yeah. So he's like, we're doing so much chanting, we're doing this and that. He's like, you have no idea what you're going to think at the time of death. That's why you shouldn't be nonsense. Like, you should do bhajan, you should chant, because I already died and I already know how much nonsense is in my head. He's like, I didn't listen to the Beatles 35 years or whatever, and it's still in my brain, So Maharaj thought he's having a heart attack, and no one was really there, no one was really able to take care. Maharaj was there, Avadut Maharaj was there, from Surikunj, and then there was a few disciples in Navadvip, but no one was really able to help, so I picked him up. We went to Navadvip to get this heart scan, and then took him there. They weren't really sure, so then with Avadut Maharaj, he came with us. We went to the Kalyani government hospital. Yeah, I heard now it's nice doctors, but it was really if my parents saw me in this hospital, they would be like, it was very almost like horror movie. No offense to them, but super nice doctors. But it was god damn, and the doctors, they were telling us you should go to Kolkata, to a private hospital. They'll be able to do better, and then they'll check. So we went in the ambulance to Kolkata. And then into the emergency room, and by this time it's probably 2 in the morning, and I remember I slept on the floor of the emergency room, in December. I was freezing cold, I had a gumtra on the floor, just and it was crazy because all this stuff going on, and then so many people, and I was trying to get the doctors to see him, and I'm freaking out, and it's oh Maharaj, and then Maharaj is resting on the bed, and then I remember finally okay, I'm gonna get a nap. And I'm freezing cold, and then Maharaj is hey, you're sleeping? And I was Maharaj, he just come on, because they wanted to get him, he wanted to get admitted because he was, having this heart attack. I just remember, really austere situation. And then anyway, they wanted to do, triple bypass, a big operation, and he was let me just go back and die, just forget it, I don't want to do this big surgery. If I'm going to go, take me back to the Dham. So, pretty much, I think he just checked out of the hospital. I think we went in the car and went back. And then, since then, he got stints again, because there was again problem. And anyway, in my time, I'm speaking a lot. I just share, I saw Maharaj, thank God, I saw Maharaj I was just in Vrindavan. I came 10 days ago, a week ago. I came back, and I just saw him the day before I left. Basically, I went to Radhakund and I stayed with him just maybe for an hour. And he was the happiest that I'd ever seen him, the most peaceful, the most joyful. He told me, "I'm so happy in Radhakund. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm surrounded by sadhus. My Naam. I'm so inspired. I'm reading so much. I feel so connected." He was speaking about his Gurudev, how he's feeling so connected to Srila Gurudev. And I was so happy seeing him like this. Because Maharaj, he had this intense aspect to his personality where, I also get it, anxiety and just the stress of being in the material world and being a foreigner in a foreign place. So I never saw him this shanti. And he said to me, "My heart's really bad, my health is really bad. I could die any moment." And he said to me, "I'll know, I'll feel it." He told me, "I'll have 5 minutes to prepare myself, and then that'll be it." And he's "But I'm ready." He told me, "I'm ready." And I said to him, and he also, I said, gave me some instruction for my life, which I'm grateful for. I said to him, "Maharaj, I'm so happy that you're here, because I feel I have a man on the inside, you're here in Radhakund, I have a reason to come, you're here, you represent us, so thank you, thank you for being here." And I told him I'll see him again soon. And I'll finish on this, I remember saying, like, when I found out Maharaj left, to my wife, like, damn, like, if I knew that was the last time I'll speak to him, it would have been like a very, very different conversation. Like, I would have asked all the things in my heart, and I would have really, like, done. I just thought I had more time, actually, and that was sad. That was really sad. So thanks so much. I think there was just maybe one more thing I wanted to say about Tridandi Maharaj. Anyway, it's fine.
Can you tell us, so when you went to Radhakund with him from Surabikund, and then he said, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to stay, and he asked you to sing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I don't really remember how it happened. I know, like, I was in Braj, and Maharaj was in Radhakund, but I'd already come back to Mayapur, and somehow he called me and was just like, hey, I'm not coming back. Like, I'm here, and this is the place I want to be. And like I was saying, like, he was always trying to be inspired, like, from higher inspiration. So same way he shifted to Surabikund, you know, following his intuitive feelings about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In a similar way, when he went to Braj, he wasn't prepared. Like, all of his stuff was here. He literally called me and said, just, I need a favor. I need you to pack all my stuff, and there's a few things that I need, and I'm not coming back. And it was really smooth. Like, Maharaj was always like, even when I saw him now, he was like, thank you so much. Like, you brought my stuff here, like, because of you. I was like, no, I didn't do anything. I just had to, like, just be there. I just had to be there. But it was, I just, you know, packed his things and sent it with the company. But it was funny, like, unpacking his stuff, we were finding, like, you know, I, like, open up a book, one of these, like, safe books, and there's, like, thousands of rupees inside. And Maharaj, like, you know, you have, like, money and things like that. And, you know, he had some really, like, specific instructions that were, like, super difficult to follow. Like, this, like, he wanted me to give this to someone specific, but they didn't want it. And then it's like, he's like, no, but you have to, but then, okay, then I have to take it across, and, okay, Maharaj, I'll do it. But then I'm just like, oh, Maharaj, can you just have this? Like, so, very specific. And then, you know, one of the worst things was, he had this, like, awesome, like, JBL speaker. And somehow, I don't know, like, I'm really a chore because I had my eyes on this speaker, and somehow I came home with it, you know? And I told my wife's like, where did you get this? Did you, like, steal this? And I was like, no, Maharaj said I can have it. And she's like, there's no way. Tridandi Maharaj said you can have this. I was like, no, he said I can have it. And then she's like, you better call him up. So, Maharaj, like, this speaker, you said I can have it, right? He's like, what the hell, no? Like, when did I ever, like, say that you can have this speaker? And I was just like, God damn, sorry for that. Like, and it's funny, because when he left, I was like, you know, I should be there, like, and I almost went, actually, but it was just a bit too abrupt. I was like, oh, I should be there, I should take some maha from him, his glasses or something. I was like, oh, anyway, I have the speaker. So, Hare Krishna. Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Gurudev ki Jai.
ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय बुद्धवे श्रीमति भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामने। नमो विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियापने श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदान्त Narayan Kinamane. Offering obeisances to Nijula Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Nijula Krishna Om Shripada Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, to all assembled Sannyasigam, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, obeisances, and to those I haven't seen in over 25 years. So I'll try my best to remember what I can. Tridandi Maharaj, when Srila Gurudev came to Alachua in 1999, of course he stole so many hearts, and we followed him somewhat on the festivals, and then I came to the Vrindavan Parikrama in 2000, and Tridandi Maharaj was helping the devotees find places to stay. So I had been to India at some time, and I was so enthusiastic, and Tridandi Maharaj, we met and he took me to one place, and to me it looked like it might have been 100 or 200 years old. I don't know. And then he took me to another place and it looked similar, and I said, are there any more places to check out? And he took me to another place, and he said, what do you think? And I said, I'll definitely consider it. And he said, Bopade, we're not here for your pleasure. And we're here to serve Gurudev. It just hit me hard, and so I realized that, I gotta suck it up and take one of these places, So I ended up taking one of them anyways. So then that same year, Gurudev had some of the devotees like Prem Prayojan Prabhu at that time, Arani Maharaj, and others, the young boys, etc. He was translating to stay at Durvasa ashram. So there were 2 elders there, myself and Tridandi Maharaj, wasn't sannyas at that time. So that was a wonderful time, and of course he was chanting more black, and he was always saying, you have to do bhajan, you have to do bhajan. At that time I had some enthusiasm, not like now. And so I did, and since that time I chanted 64 rounds, and I lasted about 3 weeks. But anyways, that experience was nothing like I would expected, and it was many realizations at that time. Unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to continue. But anyways, then we went to Navadvip Dham Parikrama, took the train, and again I didn't come for some years, but I came back to Jagannath Puri, and I stayed in Jagannath Puri, and we used to ride bikes, myself and Tridandi Maharaj, to different holy places, and I think we went to see Srila Bharati Maharaj. We ride our bikes there, Grand Road. And there was a specific, unfortunately the details, maybe I'll think of it later, I can't remember. But there was one specific store there, and I had the chance to buy what he liked, walnuts, and a particular Ayurvedic medicine, I think it was Arun, for his heart. And I just remember riding bikes to many places. And
he liked to ride bikes fast.
Well, you have to remember that we had Indian bikes, and they had 1 speed and 1 gear, So you could get going faster, gradually. But just recently, what I can remember, probably 10 days ago or less, I was with Srimad Maharaj, Mahabodhi Prabhu, and we went to visit Tridandi Maharaj at Radhakund. And he came to greet us, and he seemed effulgent. Just so enlivened, so enthusiastic. Amazing. And we sat in his room, and I remember myself, Navy Maharaj, Mahabodhi Prabhu, Sri Krishna Charan Prabhu, just us sitting there. One of the questions Mahabodhi Prabhu asked was, what do you like more, being here, being Godrum, great, or Radhakund. And he said, Radhakund. He said, here everything is just magnified in Radhakund. And you could see his altar was there, the gopis, mantraks like that. And he also mentioned certain things, like one of his followers coming out with a book soon, dealing with flat earth. But he saw the illustrations, nothing like we conceive of when we say that. Very, very amazing. And then other topics were discussed there. Nini Maharaj, Mahavali Prabhu, he was so enthusiastic about preaching. You know, and in fact, even later that day, there was a big ISKCON group came, and he preached there also in the class, and they had bhajans, and then we took prasadam, and then we spoke, and then he took us to Radhakund. On the way, we went down to Narottam Das Thakur's bhajan kutir, kind of like a cave. You go down a few steps. I never knew where that was, and it was like a family's house, you know, on the way there. Before you get to Kundeshwar Mahadev, very near there. And then we came back, but he was giving class. Then I think 4:30. He was getting his room ready to give class. But I know there's a lot more, and I wish I had more details to describe. But I just wanted a chance to glorify Tridandi Maharaj. For myself, he was always jolly, always funny, always very witty, but also very serious, you know, at the same time. And he tried to encourage me, along with others like the Srimad, to come do bhajan. But I know myself barely doing Shraddha Abhas. I mean, sadhana Abhas, so what to speak, sadhana, then bhajan. But he was always encouraging, and I was very fortunate to have his association and the chance to glorify him in a small way. All glories to Srimad Tridandi Maharaj.
So I feel like I probably had less experience with Srila Tridandi Maharaj than everyone else in this room, but I really wanted to share this one incident with him that really inspired me, really struck me. And actually, Urgavar has already mentioned it, but I'm still going to elaborate on that and my thoughts and feelings about that. So I'm going to try to be really brief. First time I met Srila Tridandi Maharaj was in 2020, the beginning of the year, right before COVID started. And then we had a chance to get to know him more deeply when we moved to Mayapur with my husband, Damodar Prabhu. That was in 2022. So we started, Tridandi Maharaj didn't really do many programs at that time. He used to stay in his bhajan kutir in Gotramvip, as everyone knows. So we used to go there to visit him sometimes. And every time we went there, it was such a deep conversations. Like, it was never just chatting, nothing like that. He really wanted to inspire us deeply. And he wanted to inspire us to go really deep in our bhajan, in our devotional life. And every time we were like charged up and we were leaving his room and we felt so inspired. And So one time he shared with us this same story that Rugai Prabhu has already spoke about. He said, a few years ago I died. Like my heart stopped, and for 5 minutes I was not breathing, and I was like clinical death, I understand. And he said, you know what I was thinking at that time? I was like, no, what? He said, it was just a Beatles song playing in my head. I was like, wow. Maharaj has been a sannyasi for 20 plus years at that time, and I was thinking, oh my God. So it means that at the end of our life, we're going to think about the time when we were most happy, about something that we're most attached. And that could be something totally mundane. And it was so scary. I was horrified. What would I think at the end of my life? What will I think? And it was really eye-opening for me. And it really struck me. I was thinking about it for a few days. And when Maharaj was telling us that, he said, so because I had this strong impression in my youth, and I haven't listened to those songs for 20, 30 years, maybe more than that, and still, that's what I was thinking. That's what was my happy memory. And he said, so now I realized what I have to do. I have to prepare myself. And he said, now I'm preparing myself. Now I'm going really deep, and I want to feel taste. Now I really want to feel the taste, the sweetness. And I'm going really deep into chanting and into reading all these literatures. Every time we would come to his room, he would have all his books opened. These really high topic books. And he was really studying them, really going deep into them. And he even gifted some of those books to my husband. And he was encouraging him to read them too. So it's such an example for us how to live and how to die, actually. How we have to really prepare for our death. And better we start now, because it really takes a long time. And to create this really strong impressions so that our most happy thing in our life, it should be connected to bhakti, not something mundane, not something from back in the time in our childhood when we felt really happy. So this was a really eye-opening experience for me. When Maharaj said that, I was I didn't realize that even after so many years of practicing, as a sannyasi, of being a preacher, and practicing so deeply, these impressions are still so strong in him. So what to speak about me? I'm sure that this is a lesson that he shared this thing with us. This is a lesson for everyone to understand that yes, really we have to go deep, and we have to try to find that taste. We have to try to find something that our heart is really responding to, and we feel deep attachment to, and better that be connected to bhakti. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to share, because that really impressed me. And there are many other things and stories that were connected to Maharaj when we were coming and talking to him, but I don't want to take time. Was that just one last thing? When I first met Maharaj, I was talking to my uncle, and I told him, I met this one Maharaj, he's a disciple of your Gurudev, it's Tridandi Maharaj. He said, oh, Tridandi Maharaj, he's one of my most favorite. And he said, I did this retreat with him. It was a Harinam retreat, and it was somewhere in Europe, I can't remember the country. He said, we all had to chant 1 lakh with Tridandi Maharaj during the whole retreat. So my uncle was part of that, and he said he had a really deep experience at that time. So this is also kind of describing, showing how deep Maharaj was. He wanted to go deep. This was his very special quality. He was not interested in anything on the surface. He wanted to go really deep. And I think this is what really how he really won my heart. Such a special person. In my life, even though I didn't have so much association with him, but I realized that he's a very special person. So thank you.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Thakur Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sha. We do this together. Shri Guru Ram Sarvajam Sadhana Raghunatham Sadhvaitam Sadhanam Sridham Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Om humble bases unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and also under the lotus feet of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And to the lotus feet of Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Goswami Maharaj. Today is a very special day. For the Vaishnavas, the days that we don't look forward to. But it's a day that turns out to be the most glorious day. Why? Because we can delve deep into the heart and bask again in the beautiful remembrances of the association of these sadhus. I didn't have a lot of association with Tridandi Maharaj, but we were men of the same heart. Or what I meant to say, Sakhis of the main heart. Once in 2003, I think I just met him, maybe 2002 or 2003 in India. And at that time, it was Bhakti Sar and Aranya Maharaj. They were making up this list, like the old ISKCON list of who can be a sannyasi. And they put my name on it. Oh, we the group, Madas, and then they had put Tridandi Maharaj's name on the list. And who was this? Nandi Kishore. And I remember when we came to know of it, we were looking and we were adamantly opposed to this idea of being on some waiting list to be a sannyasi. Because we understood what is the nature, what does it mean to be a sannyasi. And that was all due to the understanding of what it means to associate with Vaishnavas. This is not an ecclesiastical social convention, some sort of society where you just, yes, 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 yes. No, it's not that type of society. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti vitkana rasayana kata tajosana taspa bharga bharmani shadhavati bhakti. This sadhu sangha, I have been thinking about this verse after hearing the news. This sat prasanga, it's a special type of sangha. This association with Vaishnava, for those who were hearing how his heart, Tridandi Maharaj's heart, was always screaming, always endeavoring to find the depths of that being where he could be heard by Alita, Vishaka, by Shirupa Manjari and Rati Manjari. He was screaming like that. Right? This is prasangam. This is the nature. Pra is a special thing. It means an intimate association. So when you're in the presence of these individuals who are endeavoring for prasangam, when you're in their presence, you find that you must go deeper to hear the sounds. Ha Devi Kaku Varagat Padajanjavata Yaseni Pattapadantapadarti. You're throwing yourself at the feet of the Sakhis, trying to hear my prayer, hear my scream. I'm laying myself head first. This was the heart of Tridandi Maharaj. In Radhakund, on the opening of the temple, I was making some statements, and then after, I don't know if he said, I guess after I spoke, he was saying, here's your person of my heart. Someone who's endeavoring, who's screaming, to understand something, to delve deep into the realm of what is bhakti. This is association, prasangam. And it's very powerful. It's not a surface thing. It's a very powerful thing. It's so powerful that there's no obstruction. And if there's any obstruction, it just simply becomes a source of power and impetus to keep moving. This is who he is. Rasayana Katha. And it's a very sweet thing. The devotees have spoken so wonderfully about his personality and the sweetness. That sweetness is not an artificial sweetness. As we heard, he's endeavoring. Oh, didn't want to waste a moment. And then the point about what he remembered at the time when he thought he had left this world. And those of us are seeing it as an instruction. But he's trying to tell you that at that point, I saw the sweetness. I saw the rasayana, what was necessary for me to attain this. This is what he was saying. Right? Otherwise, how would he, in anybody's right mind, who was trying to glorify and to extend their position in a worldly sense, would they tell such a story? Why would they tell such a story? And it did remind me of one of my things. I was a young devotee at 23 or some years old. I'm chanting in front of Virginia Nandana, Lord Jagannath. And somehow I must have dozed off or just whatever phase I was. And then I heard this voice, love of God, ha, ha, ha. And I was like startled. Where's this demoniac thing coming from? And at that point, I said, I need to, as he was expressing, I need to get beyond this. I need to get beyond the impressions. Whatever's there's an obstruction, I need to go beyond that. Satam prasangam mamavirya samvido. So with the prasangam, with the special sangha association that allows for intimacy. If you don't get intimacy, you don't get sangha. Sangha means intimacy. Doesn't mean anything else. Doesn't mean I bumped shoulders with the Maharaj. Doesn't mean I broke bread with the Maharaj. Sangha means something intimate. Where soul to soul, there's screaming going on to attain this bhakti. So I'm trying to remember him today, and he's an inspiration for me because I feel indebted. We all listen to his recordings. It's such a special place for me. Practically daily, I listen to Prem Sampu, and you could just hear his beautiful voice. The following, right, is recording. Under the guidance of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And then the way he just, we all know his voice, we can hear it. And then the way he spoke, and the Jaiva Dharma. So he has a special place in my heart. Because every day I know I'm going to be hearing that voice. And I'm going to be thinking of that intimacy that he's seeking. Because as he said, we're men of the same, right? You want to be a madman for Krishna. Like me. So today is a very special day. It's a day that if we think sincerely about what we are supposed to be aspiring for. And sometimes it takes a sad day to bring about an auspicious day. Sometimes it's like that. But Krishna's told us that if we simply follow the process, as you described, he's always present, follow the process. He's a no nonsense. Follow the process. Because he can understand. Matchita mat gata pranas, bhuriyantas parasparam, katiyantas cha mamrityam, tushanti cha ramanti cha. Because he understood that Krishna said that if you just give up the external chatter of this world, the mundane chatter, just give that up. And matchita mat gata pranas. You put your prana, you put your anxiety, you put everything into understanding me. Right? And you do this in association. Bhuriyantas parasparam. You give back and forth one another. You scream the heart of your soul, and you hear the screaming of the soul of the other person. Then, tushanti cha ramanti cha. Krishna says, I guarantee you will be happy. There's no other happiness. Krishna has laid out the platform of happiness. And that is to take our soul and ask for this prasangam. Ask for this intimate association. This intimate feeling that Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj has always been trying to express. So I was very fortunate to see him at the program, and I told him that we should get together more, because I knew we had similar ideas, and I thought, oh yeah, that'll happen. And we exchanged. It looks like, what's up? We're a fake messenger. It was good to see you. It was good to hear from you. Looking forward to future exchanges. So in his manifest appearance, that won't take place. But in his unmanifested appearance, I have an opportunity to have that association. This is the real business of those who are seeking to associate with a sadhu, associate with a transcendental personality. So, I didn't know, sitting here, I didn't know how solemn I was going to be. these are the feelings that I have. And there's a sadness, of course. But like all great personalities, they always show you the way. So by him leaving before me, he's showing me the way. He's pointing, have no fear. This endeavor and this practice of bhakti, have no fear, and you will get there. Okay? So this is a blessing. Unlimited obeisances unto Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj. And we're blessed. We're blessed. We're all here. Is anybody from India here? We got in the doorway. Yeah, we're on Sabi. We sing that song to the Vaishnavas in the morning. Okay? All the Vaishnavas that are everywhere from Mahaprabhu, who were in the past, present, and the future. Right? We were so fortunate to see how Mahaprabhu has placed one of his sadhus in a body that was not Indian. Right? From Australia? England? Yes. So he's placed them in this body. And we could see how unlimited Krishna's mercy is. So we didn't have to feel cheated at all. I didn't have an Indian guru, or I didn't have this, or I didn't have that. He was a living example of that song that Mahaprabhu has placed his devotees all over the world. And for those who had the opportunity to become his disciple, whether it's Diksha or Shiksha, and for those who have the opportunity to even think that they might want to associate with him, we're extremely, extremely blessed. His Grace Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj ki jai. Gopi Mama.
I actually was not planning to speak, and then as everybody was speaking, I realized actually I had a very sweet interaction with Srimad Tridandi Maharaj, and I thought I would share it today. So this was, I guess, during lockdown. He was still over in Godrum behind Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house, and I was staying on Mayapur side. And I got a call, and it's Tridandi Maharaj calling me. And I'm like, oh, Tridandi Maharaj is calling me. I wonder what this could be about. And so I was like, oh, Dandavat Maharaj, Hari Bol. And he was like, oh, Hari Bol. I was wondering, if you want Giriraj. And I was like, what? It's like, I have Giriraj and I'm doing puja every morning, and puja for Giriraj takes so much time, and I just want to chant, and I have no time for chanting because I have to do all this puja for Giriraj. Would you like Giriraj? And I was like, oh,
can I think about this for a little bit, Maharaj? Let me call you back. And I hung up, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is a very big thing. And I actually remembered that once I heard D.day say that you can never purchase Giraj. He can only be given to you. And then as soon as I remembered that, I was like, Giraj is being given to me. How can I say no? And I called him back and I'm like, Tridandi Maharaj, yes, I will take Giraj. And he said, great, come over and get him today. So I sent Lakshmikanta Nandakishore went over to Goju and collected all Giraj's paraphernalia and his clothes, and it's a lot of paraphernalia and a lot of clothes. It was like 2 big bagfuls of things. And yes, it was pretty amazing. I actually asked him, it was like, Maharaj, well, like, what made you think of me? You know, why me? And he was like, well, you know, I just wanted Giraj to go to a nice Brajvasi family. That's what he said. So anyway, somehow, magically, Giraj was given to me by Tridandi Maharaj, and so I was just remembering that story today, and I just wanted to share it with everyone.
Tridandi Maharaj, being for me, I want to ask first time about this. Before I never told anybody, but this is my second birth in this life, something strange. But and I take a picture from my Guru, but I forget everything. And in this second life, second birth, Tridandi Maharaj gave me second life Diksha Mantra. And I hope for one day I will meet him, because I know because time has been very less for I have communication with him, and before when he is in Godrum, we are mostly every day going to his place and listening Harigata and association. And I remember he make it in his garden, Giraj, and we are also doing parikrama and like big Giraj. And I hope for again I will meet him one day.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Wait. I mean, I could like.
It's getting late, the more you keep telling me.
I think it's okay. I'll just like 5 minutes.
I
अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So I offer my Dandavata pranams to my Shri Gurudev and to all the dear followers of my Shri Gurudev, to all the sannyasis here and all the senior devotees here, so many devotees, all Vaishnavis. So I'll try to keep this as quick as I can. But was it Mahaprabhu said to Srila Haridas Thakur, Achar karen keho na karen prachar, prachar karen keho na kore achar. Achar prachar namer koroho dui karya, tumi sarva guru tumi jagater arya. That some people, they follow their own practice, their achar, but they don't share it. There's no prachar. And some people, they only preach, but they don't follow they're not strong in their own practice. But you follow both through, you're strong in your achar and your prachar, through your chanting of the holy name. So therefore you are, the guru of all, like that. And I really wish with Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, his own practice, that was where he gave most of the emphasis to. That's where and there is an excitement in his practice. He had a relish. I remember once Vaijanti Maladidi told me that he used to say that he said that his sense gratification is Srimad Bhagavatam. It's like actual sense gratification. Like he got that kind of it was so juicy and yummy for him, and so there's this in all of his practices, there's this kind of excitement and intensity, and he was so fixed and strong in it. And so because of that, he also gave a lot of emphasis to preaching, but his main focus was on his own practice, and therefore his preaching had some very deep effect. Actually, this has been such an inspiring thing to see how many devotees all over the world, so many small people that you would never hear about, and like this Mataji right here, how deeply he impacted people, in a really tangible way that actually really made a significant difference in their life. And why did it have so much power? Was because of his relish in his own practice. And so then when he would speak Harikatha, and when he would encourage devotees, it had a lasting effect. And most preachers and most people traveling around and giving class and everything, they'll share a lot, and they'll give a lot, they'll speak a lot. But Tridandi Maharaj, he didn't want people, and all of his groups, he had so many different groups throughout every day he would be dealing with a different group here and there, and he didn't want everyone to just passively listen. He would make everybody do the work. You would have to, I hear from so many devotees, they said, I can't do this right now, I have to write a chapter summary of this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Every single chapter, they had to write a summary of the entire chapter, or they would have to speak the chapter. And he'd spend, I'm not sure, Urubaku can tell me this directly, he probably spent the same amount of time hearing as he did speaking. Hearing from the devotees, making sure they understood everything. And he'd always be zooming out so that they can get the flow, right? He would have the devotees recite memorize all the chapters, the sequence of all the chapters in every single canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. But he gave so much he really wanted people to, he didn't want to just speak at people and have them passively listen, but he wanted to empower people so that they weren't dependent on him. And so we'll be seeing how, like, so many devotees have been sending me requests. I have a long list of people who want to share, and so far all of the glorifications we've been hearing is how deeply and what a deep way he impacted everybody. And he was so personal also. Like, there's so much, if you just did the smallest thing, he'd have so much gratitude and he'd never forget it. So much appreciation. And everybody, you felt so relaxed and comfortable and so much care. And even if you didn't have so much, like if you didn't know him so much, the first time he'd meet you, he would just shower you with this care and affection. When I came in 2002, I think, I got sick. I didn't know him that well. And at that time, during the busy Kartik time, when there's all the Parikrama, all the Harikatha, everything going on, and I didn't know him that well, but he personally cooked khichdi for me and brought it to me every single day amidst all the busyness. But he made a priority for that. He had that kind of caring in his heart. And he had that for everybody. And it was so intense. And his excitement, and he wanted everybody else to feel that excitement that he was feeling. And so in Gurukul, I remember, this is when they were making the universe chart, and he explains from Brahma Samhita, the whole, the spiritual world, the material world, the Brahma Jyoti. He explains it in full detail. And then he gave every student there, this is probably before I was a teenager or when I was just a teenager, he gave maybe Jayashri would remember, he gave everybody a big sheet of paper, like a big poster-sized sheet of paper. And everybody had to draw the entire universe from what and he had a test, and he'd give everybody, the person who wrote the most details and who did the best chart, he'd give them a gift. And so the whole school, all the kids, all the ages, we all tried to make our own universe chart on these big sheets of paper. And I remember at that time, he made the whole process seem exciting to me, and I thought, I want to make a tent, and I'm going to put a tent over here. I had a whole location where I wanted to put it, and I said, and I'm going to chant 6 people rounds every day, and I was just a young kid. But his excitement was so intense and genuine that it would rub off on everybody else. And so I'm feeling, anyways, whatever. I'm feeling a little sad because I'm moving to Radhakund, and I was really looking forward to spending time with him more regularly, but I'm also feeling so grateful. Especially something that's really inspiring me is to see how deeply he affected so many devotees. And in that way, he's living on in a very real way by seeing this inspiration that he gave everybody all over the world. And that his love, like this, will continue. His effect is continuing from all these people that he affected. And so I'm very grateful, and I'm offering my pranam to him again and again. And I'm praying that some of this excitement that he had in his own practice, that I'll take that seriously, and I'll have that same excitement. And that's where I'll give all my emphasis on. And then the preaching will have some effect. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
I can share one.
Tridandi Maharaj. I'm feeling quite emotional, but I just want to share
just one thing only. I heard a few people mention his move to Surabhi Kunj. Maharaj and I had a quite deep relationship. We would share a lot of internal realizations with one another. And I'm not sure if he shared this one thing about his move to Surabhi Kunj with many people. But it was really fascinating for me, and now that he's left his body, I feel maybe it's appropriate to share this one detail. He had told me that he went to Surabhi Kunj while he was still living at Swananda Sukara Kunj area. He went to Surabhi Kunj for the disappearance festival of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, maybe appearance, I can't remember which one. And he said when he got back to his Bhajan Kutir, he had darshan of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was telling him now it's time to move to Surabhi Kunj. And he told me that he was arguing back, saying, my whole life is here, everything's here, how can I move all these things? How is it possible? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said Bhaktivinoda Thakur told him, don't worry, all the arrangements are being made. And he said within a few days everything was already arranged and easily everything just moved one place to the other. So many bicycle rickshaws just carried everything from one place to the other, and he said it was like he blinked his eyes and he was already living in Surabhi Kunj. So I just wanted to share this one thing that he shared with me. Really mind-blowing.
I don't feel like I have anything really to add. I'm mostly wallowing in my own feelings. It hit me pretty hard, actually, which is kind of unusual. In my experience, I don't know, maybe it's growing up as a devotee, this idea about death and the feeling of, I don't know, I just don't, it's almost like a numb feeling, but it hasn't been that way. So I guess I'll just share a few words of gratitude and also a feeling of loss. The feeling of loss is like mostly about myself, feeling, you know, even though I'm like middle-aged or maybe even older than that now, I don't know, but I still always relate to myself as kind of like a kid. And I keep on wondering when I'll grow up and I'll have some wisdom. And it's times like this, you know, where it's like missed opportunities. Maharaj, I've known him for a really long time. I think I met him in 1994. And, but he was just like my friend's dad, you know? But it's really now, I feel very, very grateful that we actually spent, I think we went for 3 different days in December to go visit him in Radhakund. And it was so completely sweet, and feisty, like Maharaj said. I guess he said about himself. Such a beautiful personality, just so straightforward and so practical. Always trying to help people with really practical things, and such a good listener. He would listen so well and hear, and I really like this quality. He would like listen to the actual words, and then he would like have a question, and like, do you mean this word? Or like, you know, he would really lean in and really go deep with everything. And I feel silly that I don't even know if it will change. I hope it will change. That I will like stop taking for granted the amazing association that's around me and stop thinking about people just as like my friend's dad or something like that, and really ask questions, especially from personalities like Maharaj, who is so practical and so kind and such a good listener. He didn't preach at you, and it's something that I find kind of rare. And I feel lucky that we got to, I think we spent like 5 or 6 hours with him for 3 different days in December. And he was so, I don't know, it's just, I guess it's just how he is, because everybody's describing him the same way. He created this intimacy and this connection and this, like, he's just there and present with us and made us feel so special and so happy to greet us and spend time with us. And the things that he shared with me, a few different things over the years, they really stuck with me, and so that's really powerful. It's, you know, when people say words and they stick with you years later. I did these workshops a long time ago in 2010, and then after, it's not really important what, but he gave me some very specific feedback after one of the workshops. And he thought about it deeply, and it was really powerful, and I remember it to this day. I often go in front of a room, and I'll think those exact words that he gave me. And also he said something when we were there visiting, and he was talking about people with their mental, like, you know, just coming in, all these feelings and thoughts, and so many people that would come to him for help or support. And he was saying, oh, you know, sometimes I just tell people, like, just get away from me until you've chanted 64 rounds. And for some reason, that's really been sticking in my head. If I'm feeling mental, I'm like, well, I should just probably just pull out my feedback and start chanting, you know? So it's, but he had that way about him that he could say certain things and they just really struck home and they stick with you. I feel very sad, actually, that I won't have the opportunity to associate with Maharaj more. But I also am like really, like Madhukar Prabhu was saying, how it's so beautiful to see everybody in their glorification. One Maharaj is actually the Maharaj who takes care of Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj's samadhi. He said something to me. He said, oh, you can tell the quality of it. He had said that he'd never met our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, but he said that, oh, you can tell the quality of a Vaishnava when you hear Vaishnavas describing them, right? And it just struck me when he said that, and I was like, oh, that's really very true. And I've been thinking how beautiful all the different stories and all the different impacts that Maharaj had on so many different Vaishnavas and so many different people. He helped people all over the world, people that I didn't know, in so many different ways, and he is such an inspiration. He showed how to like live and do your, you know, just like everybody said, and I hope that I take it seriously and that I can also live in his footsteps and have his association in that way. Is there
anybody else that would like to speak?
ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय श्रीराधिकाय प्रयत्नने श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नमने श्रीकृष्णदेवकथने सुदक्षं उदार्य मधुर्य गणेशयुक्तं वरं वरण्यं पुरुषमहन्तं नारायणं तं शीर्षं नमामि। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्। Of my Dandava pronounced to my Diksha Guru Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, to the Sannyasigan headed by Padmanabha Maharaj, and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, and especially at the lotus feet of Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, who I feel very honored that I could call a friend. And I was really relishing the different stories that devotees were telling about Maharaj. My memories of Maharaj mainly are from, well, the most association that I got with Maharaj were mainly in the 1990s. I first met him in, I think, around 92, something like that. And we were both in ISKCON and going to see Srila Gurudev. So all my memories really about Maharaj were really from that time and in Vrindavan. And it was kind of interesting. We would go to see Srila Gurudev, but we never really spoke until Srila Gurudev's first tour in England. And we first started talking at that time, and because I remember I was coming back to the apartment where Gurudev was staying with all the devotees. It was a really small apartment owned by Sridhar Sankar. And Maharaj was at the door, and he saw me coming. He's like, "I've been waiting for you." And I was like, "Okay." As the devotees were saying, he was real feisty, actually. And especially at that time, you know, back in the 90s, Maharaj was a real serious person. And, you know, contrasted to recently, very sweet. But anyway, he's like, "I've been waiting for you." And I was like, "Okay." And he said, "You can't go in there." And I was like, "Why not?" And he's like, "The temple president from Bhaktivedanta Manor is in there, and they want you back, and they're here to take you back, so don't go in there." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to tell them what's up." You know, and he's like, No, come with me." And he made me go with him and sit behind this huge, like, I don't know, like this vent. And he said, "We're just going to hide out." And I was like, "I'm not hiding." He's like, "Just sit down and just relax." Right? And he said it in a very unrelaxed kind of way. And then we started talking. And it turns out that a lot of our former life was very similar. Both our fathers were in the Royal Air Force. We both lived on the island of Cyprus when we were younger. We traveled around a lot because our fathers were in the military. And in Maharaj's words, he said, "Oh, so you're just like my younger brother." And I was really happy to hear, I don't have any siblings, but I was really happy to hear that, because I couldn't think of anybody that I would rather have as a brother than Maharaj. And so I started being really affectionate with me, and he kind of let me know that really this is about seva. And so he kind of, you know, made it real clear that our relationship was based on our seva and with Gurudev. And so I always remember we went on tour together with Gurudev, and every time Gurudev would chastise me, somehow or other Maharaj was always there. And he'd hear Gurudev chastise me, and I'd be looking at him like, "Oh my God," like this. And he'd just laugh at me, and he'd just say, every time, he'd say the same thing, he'd go, "That was perfect." And so he would never let me get away with any kind of, you know, he wouldn't give me any sympathy or any kind of kind words or anything like that. It was always the same thing. Perfect. That was perfect. And eventually I ended up living in the same building as him. It was Kaushik's house in opposite Rupsanatan, and had a room on the opposite side of the roof from his former wife and family, and then he had another room, you know, on the same roof. And they would invite me over for prasadam quite often, which was really nice. And you know, it was always wonderful to spend time with him. It was kind of, a lot of times it was difficult because it wasn't comfortable, because he wasn't there for enjoyment and having fun. He was there for a serious bhajan, and he was very, as Maharaj said, dedicated. Dedication is the perfect word. And I remember this one time I was over there for prasadam, and he said, "Do you want to go out on parikrama?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So
the next day he showed up at my room at 2 o'clock in the morning without telling me. And he's like, you know, take a bucket bath, we're going. And I was like, okay, I better get my things together. So I quickly got a bag together and a sleeping bag and different things like that. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, we're going out on Prikrama and, you know, I need something to sleep in. He's like, put all that down. I'll get your stuff ready. And he basically got a chadar. He said, you got your beads? And I was like, yeah. He's like, you got a gamsha? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, that's it. And so I went out looking for a rickshaw, and he was really upset that I was looking for a rickshaw to go to Varshana from Vrindavan. And he wanted to walk. And so anyway, I eventually talked him into getting a rickshaw. So we went to Varshana, and then we spent a wonderful morning there. And then he said, okay, Nandagram. And I was like, all right. So I went around looking for a rickshaw, and he's like, no, we are walking. And so we walked to Nandagram, and I got really thirsty. And I bought a bottle of water, and he just looked at me. He was like, "Weak." And he was drinking out of pumps and wells and things like that. So I started doing the same thing, and of course I got sick. And I remember we went to find a dharmashala, and he was really upset that I was going to pay to stay in a dharmashala while I had a fever. And I was laid out in this dharmashala, like almost like unconscious with this fever. And he comes in and he sat down and he said, so do you need anything? Grapes, anything, fruit, beads? Are you chanting japa? And I was like, at the time he was Nanda Kishore, and I was like, Prabhu, I'm like, I don't know if I'm conscious. And he's like, I don't see your beads anywhere. Did you chant japa today? And I was like, no. And he's like, okay, where are they? I'll get them for you. And basically, he stuck my mala on my chest and sat there, kind of like looking at me until I started chanting. And then the next day, he said, okay, Govardhan. And so I said to him, I was like, Prabhu, we should go back to Vrindavan. I feel terrible. And he's like, yeah, but we've got to finish our Prikrama first. We should go to Govardhan. So we went to Govardhan, and we're walking around Govardhan. We got to Radhakund, and I'm like shivering, and he's like, okay, let's take bath. And I was like, Maharaj, it was winter time, by the way, and it was like it was really freezing in Radhakund. The water was cold, and he's just like stripping down, and he's like, come on, get in, let's go. And we got in there, took bath in Radhakund, and I got really sick. And again, I was greeted with I didn't realize you were so weak. And so eventually we went back to Vrindavan. And he started telling everybody, like, I go over prasadam, if there was a guest there, he'd tell everybody how weak I was because of this parikrama that we just done, and how I ruined it. And there was one other time we were on tour, and there was one thing that when I married my previous wife, we were being married by Gurudev in his room, and Vrindavan Vilasini went as my mother, and he came up to me and he said, so you going to invite me to be the witness? And I was like, oh yeah, you could be my dad, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm not old enough to be your dad. And he's like, but you should invite me. I want to come. And I was like, wow, okay, great. I would love that. He's like, I'm not coming for you. We're going to Gurudev's room, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's why I'm coming. I hate weddings. So he came as a reluctant witness for my wedding. And then we went on tour, and my wife at the time and I were working on a book, The True Conception of Guru Tattva. And I was just talking to Maharaj about that, and how I was drawing a picture for the front cover of the book, and then Maharaj was there with Padmanabh Maharaj. They were also working on the book, and they were arguing all the time. basically, about the content. And I laid out all the pictures and did the design for the inside of the book. And I remember we were in Mooralumbar at the time, and we were having the book printed in Brisbane, and it's a different time zone. And it was a Saturday morning, and the printer was only open for a certain amount of time, so we had to get in the car and drive at like 200 miles an hour to go and get this book printed in time so that we could get back and offer the book to D.day for the evening program. And I remember we were going there and we had everything laid out and stuff like that, and I was feeling really proud of it because I had a big part of laying this whole thing out, and I'd chosen these frames for all the pictures that were kind of artsy, I suppose. And anyway, we were at the printers getting this thing done, super big stress, anxiety, and getting everything ready. And I was like, see, look at this. And he looked at it and he's like, I hate this. And I was like, what? He's like, did you design this? And I was like, yeah. He's like, this is terrible. And I was like, is there any chance you could actually be positive? Like, we're going to print it right now. And he's like, no, this is no good. He's like, it's okay for this run, but this is no good. And anyway, so we offered the book to D.day. D.day really liked it. And he went back to Vrindavan before I went back. And when I got back, he reprinted the book in a totally different style. and all the work that I put in it, and none of it was in there. Including there was an interview between myself and Gurudev about the Ritvic philosophy, and there was the initials of the devotees that are talking, and it wasn't just me. There was somebody else there too, and he'd taken all of that out because he didn't agree with that. It's like, this is not about you, Prabhu. This is about Gurudev, and he was really he related with me in a very friendly and familiar kind of way, and I really appreciated how the devotees here were speaking about Maharaj, how he was very inspirational, and I didn't really get to associate very much with him after he took sannyas. I moved to the States, and I saw him occasionally here and there, and obviously a little bit online. But I would get messages from different devotees that I'd meet up with. Hey, Tridandi Maharaj is asking about you. And, so there was always this, connection there. And up until recently, like Madhavi said, we went to visit him in Radhakund in December. And I was a little concerned, actually, what I was going to find. I thought, I didn't know what kind of state he would be in. I didn't know, where he was at with his health. I also didn't know if he was really going to get on my case, which he usually did whenever he saw me, about my lack of seriousness. So I was expecting kind of like some kind of real heavy scene, and it was not like that at all. It was like he was the most affectionate I think I've ever seen him. And we had a really wonderful time. We spent a long time with him. And I'm really grateful. My wife got a great picture of us walking to Radhakund. And before that, he told us like, let's go to the Kund. He's like, but you can't walk with me because I don't walk very fast, and you'll just talk to me the whole way, and I don't have the energy. It's not good for my health. And I was like, okay. Anyway, we ended up walking because he wanted to walk with me, and he didn't stop talking the whole way there. And he said, he put his arm on my shoulder as we were walking, and he said to me, he said, you're still my brother, you know that, right? And I was like, yeah, I know that. And he said, love is forever. And I was like, yeah, I know that. And it was such a sweet, intimate moment. I've never known him to be that personal, at least with me. And I feel very grateful for those moments. And I was really shocked, stunned. I knew he wasn't going to be around forever, but for all intents and purposes, we talked about it, and I said, hey, I'm coming back next year, you better stick around. And he said, yeah, of course I will. He's like, I've been waiting for you for 20 years. I was like, now, we're back on again. So, I was expecting that, next year we'll go see him. And at the same time, I mean, it's so glorious and so fitting. And I'm not in a position to state whether or not what his destination might be. But if I was to put money on or be for sure, without any shadow of a doubt, who was going to be with Gurudev, I would say he was going to be with Gurudev, whatever. Wherever Gurudev is, I'm pretty sure Tridandi Maharaj is going to be right there. And that was always something I was so sure of, that in his association, I would always feel the mercy of Srila Gurudev whenever I associated with him. So I feel very grateful to be here today and the opportunity to speak and say a few words, although nothing deep and shastric about my friend. And I'll never forget him. And I'll think of him very often and miss him. And I hope to be able to see him again sometime. Who knows when. Panchakalpatrubhascha Kripasindhubhya Chapadiknam Bhagnabhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srimad Tridandi Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Is that it?
No.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, maybe just like, what do you think? This is a short kirtan to end?
Yeah. I think he probably would want that.
Huh? Flowers?
Sure.
Are we doing a Pushpanjali?
We have some flowers. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Bolo Bihari Ki Jai, Shri Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ji Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gurudev Ki Jai, Guru Varga Ki Jai, Sachinandan Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Shri Nityananda Mahajan Ki Jai, Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai, Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopi Go Govardhan Dvadasha Vinatmaka Shri Braj Mandala Dham Ki Jai, Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Radha Govinda Radha Gopinath Radha Madan Mohan Ji Ki Jai, Shri Radha Gokulananda Radha Shyam Sundar Radha Raman Radha Damodar Ji Ki Jai, Shrimati Lalita Vishaka Adi Ashta Shakti Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Manjari Rati Manjari Ananga Manjari Adi Manjari Vrinda Ki Jai, Shrimati Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shrimati Purnamasi Yogamaya Devi Ki Jai, Shri Gopishwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Sarva Vishta Pradata Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai, Shri Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Shri Nrsingadev Ki Jai, Bhakta Prabhu Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Charodam Charo Sampradaya Charo Acharya Ki Jai, Akara Matraj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai, Or Ananya Shakamat Samuha Ki Jai, Shri Vishva Vaishnav Raj Sabha Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Tribhuvana Pavana Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai, Tribhuvana Mangala Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki Jai, Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Nityananda Mahajana Ki Jai, Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. The transcendental disappearance day of His divine grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Go Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Gaur Premanande. All glory to the Assembly.